So this whole mess started about 2 months ago. I've been playing the same lottery numbers for years. My dad's birthday, my mom's birthday, the day my sister was born, and a couple random ones. Nothing fancy, just $5 a week, mostly out of habit. I never actually expected to win anything big. Well, I was scrolling through my email one morning before work and saw this notification from the lottery app. I almost deleted it, thinking it was just another thanks for playing message, but something made me open it. I stared at my screen for like 5 solid minutes because it said I'd won $100,000. Not millions, but still a life-changing amount for someone like me who's been grinding paycheck to paycheck in this economy. After the initial shock wore off and I verified it wasn't some elaborate scam, called the lottery office directly, I told exactly two people, my roommate Jake and my mom. That's it. I figured I'd keep it quiet until I figured out what to do with the money. Jake was genuinely happy for me, suggesting I put most of it away and maybe take a vacation. My mom, she immediately asked how much I got after taxes and when I'd be sharing the blessing with family. Within 3 hours, I kid you not, my phone was blowing up. My sister Amber, who barely texts me except when she needs something. My dad, who I talk to maybe once a month. Even my cousin Tyler, who I haven't seen since Christmas 2 years ago. All suddenly very interested in my life. All suddenly remembering I exist. For context, I've always been the responsible one in my family. Started working at 16, put myself through college with loans I'm still paying off, while my parents helped my sister with her tuition. When Dad lost his job 3 years ago, I sent them money for 6 months to help with bills. When Amber's car broke down last year, I loaned her $2,000 that she never fully paid back. I've never complained because they're family, and that's what you do, right? But the way they swarmed after hearing about the lottery win made me uncomfortable. Dad kept talking about how he always knew I'd make something of myself and how proud he was. Mom started mentioning how their roof needed replacing, $15,000, and how Amber's student loans were such a burden, $25,000. Tyler suddenly remembered I existed and wanted to pitch his business idea, a cryptocurrency thing that sounded sketchy AF. I tried to be vague, saying I was talking to a financial advisor about responsible ways to handle the windfall. This was partially true. I did talk to one who suggested putting most into investments and paying off my own student loans first. But my family kept pushing. Every conversation circled back to the money. No one asked how I was feeling about the win or what my plans were, just how much I'd be sharing. The breaking point came 3 weeks after the win. I found a nicer apartment closer to work and needed help moving. Nothing crazy, just a few hours on a Saturday. I've helped all of them move multiple times. Dad's back isn't great, but he could have helped with small stuff. Amber is perfectly capable. Mom could have at least brought lunch or something. I called and asked if they could help that weekend. Dad immediately got annoyed and said he had plans. Watching sports. I reminded him how I helped move their entire house when they downsized. He got defensive and snapped that they weren't my damn slaves just because I had some money now. I was shocked silent. Then Amber texted saying she was too busy but asked in the same text if I'd decided about helping with her loans yet. When I called her out saying I just needed a few hours of help after everything I'd done for her, she rolled her eyes over FaceTime and said something I'll never forget, that the only thing I was good for was my money, not my problems. Mom didn't even try to mediate. She just said maybe I should hire movers since I could afford it now, and then immediately pivoted to asking about the roof again. I stared at my phone for a long time after hanging up. Then I just texted one word to our family group chat. Noted. That weekend, I hired movers and didn't tell any of them. When they called to ask about the money again the following week, I didn't answer. I started working on a plan. They'd shown me exactly what I meant to them. An ATM, not a son or brother. Yesterday, I finally called them back. I was calm, told them I'd been thinking about everything and had made some decisions about the money. I mentioned setting up a family meeting next weekend to discuss how I wanted to take care of everyone. Their tone completely changed. Suddenly, they were available. Suddenly, they cared. Little do they know what I'm actually planning. The look on their faces when they realize what noted really meant is going to be something else. More updates coming after the family meeting this weekend. I've never been the type to seek revenge, but something in me snapped when I realized they only valued me for what I could give them, not who I am. Update 1. Hey everyone. It's been a few days since my last post about winning the lottery and my family showing their true colors. A lot has happened since then. After that noted text I sent to my family, I decided to do some digging before our upcoming family meeting this weekend. First off, thanks for all the comments and support on my last post. Some of you suggested I might be overreacting or that I should just cut them off entirely, but I wanted to know exactly what I was dealing with. And holy shit, am I glad I looked deeper. So the day after I sent that noted text, my mom called me like 5 times in a row. I ignored the calls but finally texted back saying I was busy with work but looking forward to our meeting. She sent this weirdly cheerful response about how excited they all were to sort things out as a family and that they were so proud of how responsible I was being with my windfall. Complete 180 from the higher movers attitude from before. This got me curious, so I decided to talk to Jake, my roommate. Turns out my sister Amber had texted him last week asking if I had mentioned any specific plans for the money. Jake didn't respond because he thought it was weird, but he showed me the messages. She'd tried to act casual, but basically was fishing for info about how much I was planning to share with family and whether I'd mentioned any special gifts I was planning. When Jake didn't give her anything useful, she actually suggested they team up to help me make the right decisions with my money. WTF? That same night, I was looking through some old emails trying to find the receipt for a birthday gift I'd bought my dad last year, and I noticed an email thread between him and my mom from 3 weeks ago that I was accidentally copied on. They probably meant to send it to my sister, who has a similar email address. They were literally discussing how to approach Marco about the money, and my dad wrote that they need to be careful not to seem too eager, but that they deserved a share after everything they'd done for me growing up. The kicker? There was a literal list of things they wanted me to pay for. Mom's roof, $15K. Dad's credit card debt, $18K. I had no idea about. Amber's student loans, $25K. A family vacation to Hawaii, $20K. Something called an investment opportunity that my cousin Tyler had pitched them, $10K. They had allocated $88,000 of my $100,000. They'd left me $12,000, and they called it Marco's portion, like they were being generous letting me keep any of it. But wait, it gets better. I called my Aunt Lisa, Mom's sister, who I've always been close with. I just casually mentioned I'd won some money in the lottery and was thinking of helping family out. Without me even asking, she said, "Oh, your mom already told me about their plans for your winnings." Their plans, not my plans, their plans. According to Lisa, my parents have been telling everyone that I promised to take care of the whole family and that they were finally getting the recognition they deserve for raising such a successful son. Lisa actually sounded uncomfortable telling me this and admitted she thought it was weird how they were talking like the money was already theirs. The worst part came yesterday. I was dropping off some boxes at my new apartment when I got a notification from my banking app. Someone had tried to log into my account. The IP address was from my parents' neighborhood. I immediately called the bank and changed all my passwords and security questions. When I checked my email, there were forgot password requests that I hadn't initiated. I was so pissed I drove straight to my parents' house. Nobody was home, but my cousin Tyler's car was in the driveway. I used my old key. They never asked for it back after I moved out years ago. And walked in to hear Tyler and Amber in the kitchen. They didn't hear me come in, and I overheard Tyler explaining to Amber how they could convince me to invest in his crypto scheme. He literally said, "Once he transfers the money, we can move it around so much he'll never track it all." I stepped into the kitchen and they both jumped. Amber tried to play it off, saying they were just worried about me making bad investments and were trying to protect me. I called bullshit and asked why someone tried to hack my bank account. Tyler got all defensive and started backing toward the door, saying I was being paranoid and that family should help family. I lost it. I slammed my hand on the counter and told them both I knew exactly what they were doing. Amber started crying those fake tears she's used since we were kids. I told her to save it for someone who still believed her act. Then I took out my phone, pulled up the email with their little allocation list, and read it out loud. Their faces went white. Tyler tried to claim it was just wishful thinking and that they wouldn't actually expect all that money. Amber switched tactics and started getting angry, saying I was always so selfish and that I owed the family after everything they'd done for me. I asked what exactly they'd done besides take and take and take. She couldn't answer. I left after telling them the family meeting was still on for Saturday and they better all be there. Amber ran after me to the door, asking if I was still going to help with the money. I just smiled and said, "You'll find out Saturday." When I got home, I had 6 missed calls from my dad and a long text from my mom saying Amber told her I barged in and verbally attacked them. She said they were just trying to help me manage my finances and that I was being ungrateful for their guidance. I didn't respond. Instead, I spent the night planning exactly what I'm going to do at this family meeting. It's not going to be what they expect. Not even close. The meeting is tomorrow. I'll update after. But one thing's for sure. They're about to learn that the only thing I'm good for isn't just my money after all. Update 2. Hey Reddit, Marco here with an update on my lottery situation. First, huge thanks for all the support and advice on my previous posts. Many of you shared similar stories about families showing their true colors when money appears, and it honestly helped me feel less alone in this mess. So the family meeting is happening in a few hours, and I've spent the last 2 days putting together a plan that's going to make them regret ever treating me like their personal ATM. I'm equal parts nervous and excited to pull this off. After catching Tyler and Amber scheming in my parents' kitchen, I went back to my apartment and paced for like an hour, just fuming. My roommate Jake found me stress-eating leftover pizza at 1 a.m. and asked what was going on. When I told him everything, he actually had some useful suggestions based on a similar situation his cousin went through. First thing I did yesterday morning was call my bank and set up a new account at a completely different bank. I transferred most of my lottery winnings there, leaving about $5,000 in my original account. Then I drove to the lottery office and asked about their protocols for winners. The woman at the desk was super helpful and explained that they get family drama situations all the time after someone wins. She gave me some generic paperwork about setting up trusts and financial gifts that I could show my family. Then I texted everyone that the meeting was still on for Saturday, today, at 2 p.m. at my parents' house. I made it sound like I was excited to share my plans with them. My mom immediately texted back with a bunch of heart emojis saying they were looking forward to sorting everything out as a family. Next, I called my Aunt Lisa, who I trust, and explained the whole situation. She wasn't surprised at all and admitted that my parents have always treated me differently than Amber. According to her, they've always expected more from me because I was the responsible one, while making excuses for Amber's behavior. Lisa agreed to back up my story if needed and gave me some dirt on past family loans that my parents and Amber never repaid to other relatives. Apparently, this is a pattern I never fully realized. The genius part of my plan came when I talked to my friend Miguel, who works at a financial services company. He let me use their conference room for an hour to take some pictures, and he printed me some official-looking documents with the company logo on them. Nothing illegal, just some generic financial planning worksheets, but they look impressive. I also bought a fancy leather portfolio and printed out a document that looks like a family financial support plan, with all their names and the exact amounts they wanted from that email list I found. I made sure to use all the proper financial jargon that Miguel helped me with. It looks legit AF. Last night, I got a text from my dad asking if they should dress nice for the meeting, because if we're signing papers, we should look presentable. I almost laughed out loud. I told him casual was fine, but that yes, there would be papers to sign. Then my sister called. She tried to act all casual, asking if I was feeling better after our misunderstanding the other day. I played along and told her I'd had time to think about everything and realized family was important. She immediately switched topics to ask if I'd decided exact amounts for everyone yet. The greed was so obvious it was almost sad. I told her I had a whole plan worked out that would take care of everyone fairly, and she actually squealed with excitement. This morning, I went to the office supply store and bought a portable printer so I could make last-minute changes to documents if needed. Then, I stopped by a notary public and had a generic letter notarized that basically says I'm of sound mind and making financial decisions without coercion. The notary gave me a weird look but didn't ask questions. I also withdrew $3,000 in cash and put it in an envelope. This is the bait. I'm going to flash it early in the meeting as a good faith immediate payment to get them all excited. The most satisfying part was setting up my phone to record the whole meeting. My state has one-party consent for recordings, so it's completely legal. I have a backup audio recorder too, just in case. About an hour ago, my cousin Tyler texted asking if he could present his investment opportunity at the meeting. I said sure, knowing it'll just dig his hole deeper. The more they reveal their plans and greed, the better. My mom called to ask if she should prepare food for everyone. This is the same woman who couldn't be bothered to bring lunch when I was moving. Now she's playing hostess because she thinks she's getting a payday. I told her not to worry about it, that I'd order food delivery for everyone. The food delivery is actually part of my plan too. I scheduled it to arrive right when I expect things to get tense. A little chaos to add to the mix. I just got a text from Amber asking if she should invite her financial advisor friend to the meeting. Translation: she wants backup to pressure me. I told her the more the merrier, knowing it'll just make her look worse when everything goes down. My dad's texted twice about where I am and if I'm running late. It's still an hour before the meeting, but they're all clearly anxious to get their hands on the money. I'm sitting in my car outside a coffee shop right now, reviewing all my documents and psyching myself up. The plan is to make them think they're getting exactly what they asked for. The full 88,000 they allocated themselves in that email. I've prepared gift letters and promissory notes that look official, but actually commit me to nothing. I'm going to let them talk, let them explain why they deserve the money. Let Tyler pitch his scam investment. Let them dig themselves deeper and deeper. Then I'll show them the cash envelope as a teaser, get them all excited, and then, well, I don't want to spoil the ending yet in case any of them somehow sees this. What I can say is that by the end of today, they'll understand exactly what noted meant. They'll realize that treating someone like an ATM has consequences. They'll learn that trying to hack my bank account and scheme behind my back was the biggest mistake they could make. It's almost time. I'm nervous but more determined than ever. They showed me who they really are, and now I'm going to show them who I really am. And I'm not the pushover they think I am. Next update will be after the meeting. Wish me luck, Reddit. Today's the day they learn you don't mess with the responsible one. Final update. Holy shit, Reddit. The family meeting just happened, and it was everything I hoped for and more. I'm still shaking while typing this out. Sorry if this is all over the place, but I need to get this down while it's fresh. I got to my parents' house exactly 15 minutes late on purpose. When I walked in, they were all sitting around the dining table like it was some kind of board meeting. Dad had actually put on a button-up shirt. Mom had made cookies and coffee. Amber was wearing makeup and had her hair done. Tyler was there with a literal presentation folder. The fakeness was unreal. As soon as I walked in, they all got quiet and stared at me like I was holding bags of cash. I put my leather portfolio on the table and sat down, keeping my face neutral. Mom immediately started fussing, asking if I wanted coffee, saying how nice it was to have family time. Dad kept eyeing my portfolio. Amber was smiling this weird plastic smile I'd never seen before. I started by thanking everyone for coming and said I'd been doing a lot of thinking about family obligations and what we owe each other. They all nodded along, looking so relieved. I could literally see the dollar signs in their eyes. Then I pulled out the envelope with the $3,000 in cash and placed it on the table. I said this was a good faith payment to show I was serious about helping family. Tyler actually licked his lips, not even joking. Mom asked if that was for the roof or just a general gift. I said it was just the beginning, and that I had a whole financial plan worked out. I opened my portfolio and pulled out the fake Family Financial Support Plan document that listed all their allocations. When they saw their names and the exact amounts they'd asked for in that email I found, their faces lit up. Mom actually gasped and grabbed Dad's arm. Amber started tearing up and said she always knew I'd do the right thing. Tyler started immediately talking about his investment opportunity, saying the money would multiply if I trusted him. I let them talk for about 20 minutes. Just let them dig themselves deeper and deeper. Dad talked about how he'd guided me to be responsible, and this was the payoff of good parenting. Mom went on about how she'd sacrificed everything for me growing up. Amber talked about how relieved she'd be without her student loans and how she'd pay me back someday. Tyler went full sales pitch mode about his crypto scheme. The whole time I just nodded and smiled, occasionally making notes in my portfolio. I asked very specific questions about what they planned to do with the money, how much they thought they deserved, and why. The greedier they got, the more detailed my notes became. Then the doorbell rang. The food delivery I'd scheduled. While Mom went to get it, I quietly set my phone to record and placed it on the table. When she came back, I stood up and said I had a final document for everyone to sign before I could release the funds. I pulled out copies of a form titled Family Financial History and Obligation Record. I handed them each a copy and watched their faces change as they read it. The form detailed every single time they'd asked me for money in the past, every loan Amber never repaid, every bill I'd covered for my parents, every time I'd helped them move or fix something around their house. And next to each item was the approximate value of my time or money. At the bottom was a grand total, $94,320. Almost exactly what I'd won in the lottery after taxes. The silence in the room was deafening. Then Dad started turning red. He asked what kind of game I was playing. I stayed completely calm and said it wasn't a game, just an accounting. I pulled out the email they'd sent each other with their allocation list and read it out loud. I mentioned how someone from their IP address had tried to hack my bank account. I brought up Tyler's plan to move the money around so I couldn't track it. Then I pulled out the real document I'd had notarized. It was a simple statement declaring that I had reviewed my finances and family obligations and determined that all debts were now considered paid in full by both sides. Amber started crying for real this time. Dad stood up and slammed his hands on the table, knocking over his coffee mug. Mom kept saying there must be some misunderstanding. Tyler was slowly backing toward the door. I stayed seated and calm. I told them the $3,000 on the table was real, and it was the last money they would ever get from me. They could split it however they wanted. I explained that I'd already paid off my student loans, made some investments, and donated a portion to a financial literacy program. Dad completely lost it. He started yelling that I owed them, that raising me had cost them everything, that I'd always been selfish and ungrateful. He grabbed the stack of cash and threw it at me. The bills went flying all over the dining room. I stood up then and said the words I'd been waiting to say. You said I'm only good for my money, not my problems. You said you weren't my damn slaves when I needed help moving. I just showed you exactly what that feels like. Amber tried to backtrack, saying she'd been stressed and didn't mean it. I pointed out that she'd had weeks to apologize but only cared now that money was involved. Mom started crying and tried to hug me. I stepped back and told her the cookies were a little late. Tyler tried to salvage his opportunity, saying we could work something out just between us. I told him I'd already reported his investment scheme to the appropriate authorities since it sounded suspiciously like a pyramid scheme based on his own description. I picked up my portfolio, gathered the scattered cash, and walked toward the door. Dad blocked my way, still yelling about everything they'd done for me. I looked him straight in the eye and said, "Move or I call the police and play them the recording of you admitting to attempting to access my bank account." He moved. On my way out, I turned and said, "Family helps family. You showed me exactly how much help I can expect from you. I've noted it. Now you know how much help you can expect from me." The aftermath has been insane. Within an hour, my phone was blowing up with texts and calls. Voicemails from my mom crying, from my dad yelling that I was supposed to take care of them after everything they've done for me. Amber texted 50 times, switching between begging and threatening to tell everyone what kind of person I really am. The best part? My Aunt Lisa called me after getting a hysterical call from my mom. When I explained what happened, she laughed and said it was about time someone stood up to them. Apparently, they've been mooching off the entire extended family for years, and nobody had the guts to call them out. I've blocked their numbers for now. Changed the locks on my new apartment even though they never had keys. Warned my building security about potential unwanted visitors. And I'm sleeping better than I have in years. The money wasn't the point. It was about showing them exactly what they showed me, that family is only family when it's convenient. That respect goes both ways. That you can't treat someone like an ATM and expect them to keep giving. Some of you might think I was harsh. Maybe I was. But after a lifetime of being the responsible one, the reliable one, the one who always gives and never takes, it felt damn good to finally say no. So that's it, Reddit. The lottery didn't just give me some financial security. It showed me who my real family is, and it's not the people who share my DNA. It's the friends who help me move without expecting anything in return. It's my aunt who tells me the truth even when it's hard. It's my roommate who celebrates my wins without trying to take them from me. And that realization? Worth way more than $100 grand.